right-wing Democrats in Congress, like Representative Josh Gottheimer, are now finally caving to progressive Democrats standing their ground on the reconciliation budget bill. Now, the reconciliation budget bill, which could pass in the Senate with a simple majority, would include all of the provisions that were stripped away from the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Everything that would actually help ordinary Americans, like expanding Medicare, providing funding for elder care, child tax credits, all of that stuff. Now, conservative Democrats like Gottheimer were saying that they wanted to immediately pass the bipartisan bill without a pathway forward for the reconciliation bill. But now we have some updates that are fascinating, including a twist from the DCCC, which we'll get to in just a minute. But first, a little context for you. Earlier this month, Representative Gottheimer and 8 other Democrats sent a letter to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi threatening to vote down a $3.5 trillion budget resolution, a measure that sets the stage for the reconciliation package unless the House first passes a $550 billion bipartisan infrastructure bill that the Senate approved on August 11th. Now, as we've talked about on the show in great detail, the bipartisan infrastructure bill has some good provisions in it, but much of it is basically corporate handouts, which is why conservative Democrats love it. The business community, their donors, they love it. And so the conservative Democrats thought that they could pull a fast one on us by ensuring that the bipartisan bill passes. And then once that passes, then they don't have to commit to the reconciliation budget bill. But Nancy Pelosi is saying, no, we need to pass both of them simultaneously. And if you're not playing ball, you need to fall in line, which is shocking because that's not typically who Nancy Pelosi is. Just days before Gottheimer's group sent its letter, the nearly 100-member Congressional Progressive Caucus announced that a majority of respondents to an internal survey said they would be willing to withhold their votes for the bipartisan legislation until the Senate also passes a reconciliation bill, a move that's not expected until next month. And so the big update today comes from David Dayen over at the American Prospect. He writes that the Prospect has learned that several of the 9 conservative House Democrats who insisted to Nancy Pelosi that they would not vote for a budget resolution without a vote on the bipartisan infrastructure package first have flipped. There are no longer 9 Dem holdouts. But Dayen does also caution that this is a fluid situation. It's very malleable and fluid, and there's always a way for things to go wrong. That's the way that I read that. So of course, since it's fluid, who knows what could happen. But what's so incredible about this is the fact that not just progressives, but Nancy Pelosi seems to be standing her ground. During a private call with her leadership team last week, Pelosi, who has just 3 votes to spare, derided the group of 9 conservative Democrats, saying, quote, "This is no time for amateur hour." And apparently she won't budge. She says any delay to passing the budget resolution threatens the timetable for delivering the historic progress and the transformative vision the Democrats share. In support of President Biden's vision to build back better, we must move quickly to pass the budget resolution this week. It is essential that our caucus proceeds unified in our determination to deliver once in a century progress for the children. I wish it wasn't just once in a century, but I hear what she's saying.
No, guys, this is absolutely shocking. I've literally never seen this in quarter of a century covering politics. Democratic leadership backing progressives and attacking and intimidating conservative Democrats. Unprecedented, and that is literal. So I don't know what to make of this. It looks like, and I'm saying this with great trepidation because they always pull the football,
yes,
right?
Yes.
But it looks like progressives might have swung the pendulum of power here.
That's what leverage does.
Yes.
When you're willing to withhold your vote as a block for something substantive and something that could actually pass, like the reconciliation budget bill, then flexing that muscle makes sense and it works, right? And they have to maintain that, right? Because I personally have a difficult time trusting Nancy Pelosi. But if progressive lawmakers do withhold their vote as a bloc unless they get the reconciliation bill, that could work. And then there's the wrinkle to this story that I did not expect. And I love it because you see conservative Democrats crying about it, even though these were the kinds of threats that were lodged against basically progressive challengers to conservative Democrat incumbents. So this is from Politico. They're reporting that Democratic Congressional Campaign Chair Sean Patrick Maloney has phoned members in recent days to warn that their majority is in jeopardy if they derail Biden's broader spending priorities. Some of those centrists who received calls from either Maloney or his staff, who already face some of the toughest races in the country next November, said they also took his comments to mean that their own fundraising help from the party could be at risk. While they said there was no direct threat to withholding DCCC funds, those Democrats said the warning was implied.
Yeah.
Right, so that is fascinating. I love how angry they are at that, again, because they had no problem with the DCCC essentially banning any type of support to progressives who are primarying corporate Democrats. But if they really do hold true to this, if they really do threaten the funding to these corporate Democrats, pretty impressive and shocking, very unexpected.
Also completely unprecedented. I have never in my lifetime seen the DCCC pressure conservative Democrats. I've seen them pressure progressives every time, okay? So now, number one, they send in Sean Patrick Maloney to do this pressure, stunning. Number two, they do a mild thing about, oh, we didn't mention anything about resources, but why is the DCCC calling you? They're calling you to obviously talk about your funding. That's the only reason why the DCCC would call you. In fact, they said the DCCC is, quote, not shy about telling anyone that we think passing Biden's agenda is critical to our success. That means, goddamn right, we're questioning and your funding. We might pull it if you're not on board. Now that tells you Pelosi's definitely in favor. I can't believe I'm saying these words.
I know.
Definitely in favor of the infrastructure bill that is largely progressive. Otherwise, she would never send the DCCC to threaten their funding. And is she the one making that decision? Of course, she was the one making the decision when they were hammering progressives for 20 straight years, and the media never told you about it. But unlike the mainstream media, we're fair. I'm shocked, but it is true. DCCC did make those calls, and she is now pressuring conservative Democrats. And on top of that, she then had a couple of these holdouts come to her Napa Valley event where she was doing massive fundraising. She got in trouble for that for other reasons that we'll talk about later. But Carolyn Bordeaux and Vicente Gonzalez, two of the conservative Democrats, showed up at the fundraising event, and lo and behold, they decided that they weren't going to carry out their threat.
Once you mess with their funding, that's when they'll cave. That's all they care about. In fact, much of their legislating is influenced by campaign funding. Their campaign donors are the ones who basically tell them what to support, what to try to block. And in this case, they're being pulled in both directions. And it appears that the pressure from the Democratic leadership here, which by the way is also influenced by progressive Democrats standing their ground, is having a massive impact. Now, let me also just note, there are still things that can go wrong, right? We still have to worry about people like Kyrsten Sinema in the Senate, who continues to be a huge problem, who continues to speak out against the reconciliation budget bill, claiming that it costs too much money, $3.5 trillion is just too much. But I think what we're seeing from Democratic leadership right now isn't like just some loyalty to Biden and what his alleged priorities are. This is about self-preservation. I think that Democratic leadership is finally waking up to the fact that Americans hate them. And I'm just keeping it real. The amount of Americans who have given up on politics altogether because of politicians failing to deliver for them, it's pretty significant. And so if they care about self-preservation, if they care about doing anything to increase their popularity among American voters, they need to deliver material benefits to people. And this reconciliation budget bill does do that. There are important provisions in there that would get more people health care. I mean, the expansion of Medicare alone is huge. And so this is exciting, but as always, I caution anyone who gets too excited because, as David Dayen mentioned, this is a fluid situation.
Okay, but guys, more good news and why you're seeing what you're seeing. Pressuring conservative Democrats is actually really easy because they're corrupt. The only thing they care about is money. So if you pressure them on money, they will cave in instantly. It'll be a wine cave-in. And in this case, they took them to Napa Valley. Like, hey, don't worry, if you cave, we'll get you the wine cave and everything will be good. And for conservative Democrats, they're like, oh, okay, great. I was in it for the bribes, so if you got bribes, I'm in. If you're gonna take away my bribes, I'm out. Okay, I get it, right? But now I tell you that because Pelosi does not have the same leverage over progressives. The Just Democrats don't take corporate PAC money. And a lot of them don't even take DCCC money. So when they say, oh yeah, we're gonna withhold your funding, Cori Bush, AOC, Jamal Bowman, et cetera, go, I don't care. We're gonna vote no. And now you got no leverage over them. And not only that, then Cori Bush is gonna go and do a protest. And AOC is gonna go on television and talk about it. And Jamal is gonna do what he does, et cetera. And so you think you're gonna control Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and the rest of them? They can't. So now Pelosi, it looks like, has made the calculation, I can't move these progressives. That's leverage, that's how you do it. That's why we started Justice Democrats. And so she's now going to move the conservative Democrats. That's politics, guys, we did it. Now look, it's not over, they gotta pass the bill, but I'm gonna give you two other facts here. Meanwhile, Just Democrats, along with other groups, including Working Families, Sunrise Movement, Organized for Justice, and even Indivisible, are running huge ads against those 9 conservative Democrats. Now, normally when they do that, Democratic leadership will come down on them like a ton of bricks, but they're not. They're letting those ads run with no consequences. And in fact, as Anna told you, when Pelosi says about the conservative Democrats, this is no time for amateur hour, she's now deriding them and putting them down and insulting them like she used to do with progressives. In that bill, there's a part of it that's part of the Green New Deal. Remember in the beginning when we started, Pelosi said, oh, it's green dream or whatever. She didn't give a damn about it. The reason she's moving is not because all of a sudden she cares about climate change or jobs or anything else. She moved because you all moved the political spectrum and she has a new political reality to deal with. That is amazing. And I'll end on the guy who was the first Justice Democrat, and you saw it here on the Young Turks. He came on the show and he said, I'll be your champion. It's Ro Khanna. And I'm giving you this quote because he reverses the paradigm here. He flips it. He said, to my moderate colleagues, a vote against the Biden agenda this week is not only a slap in the face of the president, it will obstruct any shot at adopting the policies that define us as Democrats. Now, the establishment just buried Nina Turner by pretending that she's not a good Democrat. Now, Ro Khanna is flipping that on its head and going, well, Biden's in favor of the infrastructure bill, so I guess the moderate Democrats are bad Democrats that are slapping Biden in the face. That then forces the mainstream media, who loves Democratic leadership, to go, oh my God, I guess the conservative Democrats are the bad guys now. Look, I don't want to say mission accomplished.
Do not say mission accomplished.
But guys, those are huge steps forward, amazing. The pendulum is beginning to swing. And yes, you, the TYT audience, you had a huge role to play in that. So thank you. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.